And welcome back to the Hot Lap. I was just about to go to bed, had the warm milk, cocoa, etc. And then suddenly refreshing the Facebook, Twitter, etc. feed, I find this. Oscar Piastri re-signs with McLaren, or extends his contract with McLaren, if you will. So let's talk about this guy here. Yep, breaking. Oscar Piastri signs what is a multi-year extension. Now, I've not got quite into it 100%, but I bet you they don't say how many years, because they never do these days, do they? They try and hide it. But amazing. Oscar Piastri, on the eve of the Australian Grand Prix weekend, signs with McLaren, or continues his contract with McLaren. Absolute... I mean, this is fairly big, isn't it? No, not the Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari levels big, but the biggest piece of driver news I think we've had for quite a while. So, Oscar Piastri extends his contract. Let's click on the beautiful McLaren website, zoom in a bit on his beautiful face, and I don't know how big the world. Yeah, the words are big. So, McLaren Formula 1 team announced multi-year contract extension with the Australian driver on the eve of the Australian Grand Prix weekend, otherwise known Oscar Piastri. And he said, "I'm very proud of continuing to represent this legendary team for many years to come." So the McLaren Formula 1 team today announced a multi-year extension of its winning partnership with Oscar Piastri, the Australian driver, continuing in the papaya. But they've said long term. Yeah, what does that quite mean? As you know, he joined in 2023, stolen under the nose of Alpine on a multi-year deal, and it was quickly extended later that year to run all the way until 2026. That's next year. Next year his contract runs out. Now he's continuing to impress throughout his remarkable motorsport career, quickly rising to the junior rank. We had Formula 2, Formula 3 champion before winning a sprint race in his rookie year with McLaren, specifically winning any kind of race before Lando Norris. I know, that stings. But while also finishing on the podium in Japan and Qatar. In 2024, he won the Hungarian... Yeah, it was saying inverted commas there, but he did win. But an amazing, one of the drives of the season at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, albeit with maybe a slightly controversial rear wing. But he achieved podiums in Monaco, in Austria, Belgium, Monza, Singapore, Qatar. And he had a sprint win in Qatar as well, hasn't he? As we know. He was the only driver as well, drumroll, to complete every racing lap of that 2024 season, finishing fourth in the driver standings. I mean, absolutely amazing. So today's announcement, alongside the multi-year contract extensions of, Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, and obviously driver Lando Norris and other senior members, reaffirms the long-term stability of the McLaren F1 team in its pursuit of further world championships. So clearly, Oscar Piastri, the last piece in what we hope to be a very successful McLaren jigsaw, if you are a McLaren fan. He said, "It's great knowing that I'm part of McLaren's long-term vision. The team had the belief in me when we signed in 2022, and the journey we've gone on over the past 2 seasons to help return McLaren to the very top of the sport has been incredible. There are so many talented and special people working at the MTC, that's the McLaren Technology Centre, McLaren HQ in Woking, Surrey, who have helped me to become a Formula 1 race winner very early in my career. Therefore, I'm very proud to be continuing to represent the legendary team for many years to come." He carried on saying, "I'm excited to fight for the big prizes as a McLaren driver, and after last year's fantastic achievements, it's made me even hungrier to stay at the sharp end." Obviously, Zach Brown's saying it's fantastic. I mean, yeah, Andrea Stella, obviously very, very happy. It is arguably one of the strongest driver lineups now on the grid. I know other people have suggested Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz, and I know other people have also suggested Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc. The proof of the pudding is going to be in the eating, and this is the race. So, and they've got an interesting article at how McLaren's big move impacts F1's next silly season. Because people have suggested, could Oscar go to Red Bull? Could he go to the Audi team? Could he even go to Mercedes? It wasn't too much talk about that, but if one of the George Russell went, it was more than likely to be for Verstappen. But there. So his multi-year renewal removes a key piece of the board, the race is saying, ahead of F1's silly season, which has apparently started now. So an explosive driver market, and it was explosive at 24, sparked obviously by this Lewis Hamilton move to Ferrari, and it was at odds with the stability that had become a dominant factor in team and drivers in recent times. They liked they're keeping it the same. They didn't like change, did they? But we got last year's antics were preceded by off-season renewals, and that was including Piastri's McLaren teammate Lando Norris, and it's telling that McLaren have now repeated this 12 months later. There was talk about Lando to Red Bull possibly. So this continues a deliberate strategy as the Zach Brown era has increasingly made long-term driver moves a priority. I think that's really good because it's stability, isn't it? And it shows stability. For example, when you look back at how successful the Ferrari era was with Schumacher and initially Eddie Irvine, and it kept obviously Ross Brawn, Rory Brown and Jean Todt, another Frenchman, in charge at Ferrari. Very successful. For the 96, 97, 98 and 99 seasons where, yes, didn't win. But then the Barrichello came. Barrichello stayed for quite a while. He really was the only big change of that linchpin in that dominant team. And then obviously 2000 to 2004 was all about Ferrari and Schumacher. Stella, though, is a big fan of Piastri, not just Norris, and has always been he's spoken very, very highly of his capacity to learn and progress quickly. Now, I was, to be fair, at the beginning of the 2024 season, probably the first third of the 24 season, it was like, where is Oscar Piastri? Because he really improved throughout the 23 season, obviously, highlight winning that Qatar sprint. And then it seemed like he didn't really turn up. He had a good Monaco, now and then. But and then kind of like halfway through the season, it just started to click, didn't it? So they are convinced by this driver pairing. So why mess around, the race? Just saying. Brown called it a no-brainer to offer Piastri the renewal. Stella said it means we have what we need to be locked in for the long term. He said this is good for team morale, for the direction it's travelling, for the partners, for everybody. Yeah, we've got to mention the partners, don't we? The clarity it brings is also why McLaren has publicised renewals for Brown and Stella in recent months as well. And this new Piastri deal is not just good for McLaren, it's a win-win apparently, even more so than it was with Norris, given McLaren's competitive position is even stronger than a year ago. So I imagine it was a no-brainer for Oscar Piastri, thinking, well, McLaren are very much on the up, not probably going to Mercedes, they're locked in, or maybe we'll get Verstappen. So Red Bull might be on the downer. There's question marks about the engine. So Ferrari are locked in for at least the next 2 years. Why not? And yeah, it makes sense. So Piastri gets better compensation for becoming a race winner and a driver McLaren can depend on with greater certainty, the article says, than before. There's also no better competitive position for Piastri right now, which is what we're saying. And feeling wanted has been a key factor in the McLaren journey so far. It's part of what brought him to the team from Alpine, whoops the daisy. And it also shields McLaren from any imminent nonsense that may arise. Piastri's last renewal came towards the end of his rookie season in 23, tied him down to the end of 26. This one, presumably they're saying, runs until 2028, possibly at the earliest. Now, if Verstappen decides to leave Red Bull, as has often been speculated, or the out-of-contract George Russell is prized away from Mercedes, there will be top teams looking to fill seats. Piastri would be one of those leading contenders. He was already linked with Red Bull last year, with Helmut Marko and Christian Horner speaking highly of him. There was some suggestion they maybe even preferred him over Norris. There's another element to consider though. Aside from tying the announcement into Piastri's home race, moving so quickly also avoids this becoming a factor in season. So politics are thrown out the window, sort of. Now, if it all goes to plan, both McLaren drivers will be fighting for wins and maybe the title this year. That will already be tough to manage without any party having the chance to second-guess intentions. So, rivals sensing an opportunity to sweep over each other. Yeah, so as we said, politics. But ultimately, a massive congratulations to McLaren, a massive congratulations to Oscar Piastri for signing on for the long term. So, massive piece of news, as I mentioned, on the eve of the Australian Grand Prix. Give us a subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the notification button if you don't want to miss an F1 video. We also do rally videos, we do touring car videos and other motorsport videos which we really want to get into. But this is the Australian Grand Prix weekend coming up. It's Tuesday the 11th of March at 10:15, so I'm definitely going to bed in a bit. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon, but above all else, stay safe.